So we came from Afghanistan to the UK. My dad came first, and then our family essentially followed through him. He went from like a good job where he was like doing doctoring in Afghanistan to then coming here and washing dishes. I remember I was in my brother's house. He was like making food and stuff, and then I launched ads that night. I was like, okay, this has to work. And during the evening, I heard the cha-ching. Was probably one of the best moments ever. I was like, yes, this is fucking working. Our record day has been 50k in a single day.
How much did you start with actually?
Probably spent around £500-600.
500 to 600 pounds you started with, and that turned out to 5 to 6 million. So guys, welcome to another episode of the Winner's Circle podcast. Today we have a very, very special guest in front of me. His name is Sleeman. He is from the UK. And this guy's backstory, I'm telling you, is crazy. Okay, it even inspires me because where he came from and where he is at right now, and how he actually got to this point is just very, very inspiring even for me to see. And dedication of this guy going from basically a broke engineer to now have done over $6 million in revenue with his e-commerce store. Like, it's crazy. Okay, so I would listen in, grab some popcorn and listen in because this story is one for the books. Without further ado, Sleeman, welcome. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. How's it going?
Amazing, bro. Amazing. Been busy, but always making time for you. And we got a crazy podcast planned in here. I know this story is going to be crazy. Whatever you're going to say is going to inspire a lot of people. Because I mean, obviously, I've met you. I even met you in Dubai, and like the story, like what you've done until now is just amazing. And also how you even got to know me and got to the whole point you're at right now is, I think, a lot of people would like to hear that. So up to this point, so maybe some bullet point facts about you before we even start. Like how much revenue have you done with e-commerce until now?
So since the beginning, I've probably done around 5 to 6 mil, over 6, I'd say by now. And I first started during university. So I was studying engineering at the time, and I made like a goals list on like a whiteboard. I was like, okay, in 5 years, I want to make 20k a month. But then I realized engineering realistically isn't going to get you there. So I started looking at other opportunities like sales, even through Hustlers University, copywriting, affiliating, and these other things.
That's amazing, bro. So up to this point, you started in I believe it was the first time I met you was in end of 2023, right?
Yeah, end of 2023.
And it was basically you are starting from zero and now all the way up to $6 million in revenue. That's crazy. That's crazy. Respect to that, man. That's amazing. I like to know more about your backstory, and I think the people want to hear it as well. From the point, like as a young guy living in the UK as a foreigner, right? Like, how did you even get into e-commerce? How did you find e-commerce, and what were you doing before that?
Yeah, so before e-commerce, I was studying engineering and doing sales at the time, and then also just trying to like little side hustles here and there. And while they were all going okay, none of them really took off, just because I think the opportunity vehicle was wrong. So with like affiliating, you can only get to a certain point because you're selling someone else's product. With copywriting, again, you're learning skills, but you're doing it for someone else. So it's like the ceiling you can get to is not as much with e-commerce at all. So I kind of just transitioned into e-commerce and tried a couple of things. My first product was a complete bust. It did no sales, barely got any clicks on the video. And then after that one, I tried going through a mentorship that wasn't yours. It was through, I don't know if I want to name it, but it just wasn't that good. Like they helped me find our first product.
Up to you. I don't mind. I don't know that person probably, so you can say it if you want. If you don't want to, it's fine.
It was Michael Bernstein.
Michael Bernstein. So Michael Bernstein, if you're listening to this, I don't know this guy. I've never heard of him. That's already a sign on itself, probably. But was it through him that you found e-commerce? How did you actually found the business model e-commerce in general?
Okay, so e-commerce I found through Hustlers University because I was doing short form videos, like Andrew Tate videos at first, and I learned like video editing, things like that. But I couldn't actually monetize it. So even after like getting like a few more views, and I was like, okay, I'm getting viral, but I'm not getting sales. Like, okay, this isn't working out. And then I went on to doing copywriting because I was like, okay, it's sales, which is what I was doing, but just in written form. And through copywriting, I did it for a couple months. even like, going through that course, a couple courses, doing outreach. And I finally landed my first client, but they didn't end up paying me. And that one really put me off because I was like, I don't want to be a victim to someone else like not paying me or, always having to do this outreach and the boring stuff. And then with e-commerce, I saw it as combining the two skills together because it's a lot of copywriting. And then I was like, I already know how to make decent videos with the ads or with video editing.
So like at the time you were at school still, right? You were studying engineering, you said? You were in university, or what were you doing?
Right. I was at university studying engineering. And then on the weekends, I had a part-time job just to make sure, we have enough money to fund life.
What were you doing as a part-time job?
That was door-to-door sales. It was commission
Door-to-door
only
sales
as well, which made it a bit tougher.
Wow. Do you think that sales has contributed to your e-commerce success?
I think door-to-door sales, working commission only, teaches you to kind of just be persistent until you like hit the winner. And I guess it's the same with e-commerce. You got to keep like knocking on the doors. You got to keep trying until you improve yourself, and then you hit something, and then from there it just scales.
Can we dive a bit deeper into your initial starting phase? Like from the moment you found e-commerce, you said the mentorship didn't work out from the other guy. I don't know who it was, but from that point, like, did it immediately start hitting, or how did your whole journey go to this? Was it from there up only, or how did it go? Because you talked about your goal list that you initially wanted to make 20K a month, right?
Yeah. So my first goal list was 20K a month within 5 years. And then you obviously changed the paradigm and told me to think a lot bigger. And then we smashed that goal by the end of the year, essentially. But at first, with e-commerce, I tried a product by myself and it just didn't work out. And I was like, okay, there's information which I'm missing. So even like when I tried to pirate other like courses, or I tried to look at other courses and things, I felt like none of it really worked because they didn't have direct feedback into what I was doing specifically. So I tried this mentorship with somebody else, and that's how I got my first sales. I remember I was in my brother's house. He was like making food and stuff, and then I launched ads that night. And I was like, okay, this has to work. And during the evening, I heard the ching, and it was probably one of the best moments ever. I was like, yes, this is fucking working. And then throughout the day, I heard it again and again, and we got like £50 in sales. My ad spend at the time was £50, so we were negative money, essentially. I was like, okay, this is good. And then throughout the next week, I like kept hearing it, and I was like, okay, this is good, but I'm also not making any money I'm not making any actual profit with it. So I went to the people in the mentorship, was like, okay, guys, what should I improve? What should I try? And the feedback that they were giving just was outdated, essentially, and that's why I couldn't scale. So I spent 2 months with them trying to get this product from unprofitable to break even, and they couldn't really hit it properly until like I found external sources of information. But with the mentorship, essentially the media buying strategy that they were teaching me was not working at all. And it was only until I stopped listening to them and actually like looked at people of authority on YouTube and stuff to where it started to take off, and I became profitable after like 3-4 months of being break even and losing money. And then later that month, I saw that you had like spots open for your mentorship. And then I was like, okay, this guy's done, 300K in a day selling glowing balls. He's been public about everything. I was like, if I speak to him, I know he knows what he's talking about. So there's never going to be that thing of outdated information. And there's never going to be that notion of, okay, whatever he's telling me is going to work because he's done it himself and I'm speaking to him directly.
Yeah. I think that's the issue nowadays. There's so many guys who are trying to sell one-on-one mentorship or sell courses while they're not even in the game anymore. I think that's something which I promised myself never to do. Like if I'm not having my own e-commerce, so not doing results myself, like actual numbers nowadays, then I'm not gonna help anyone else try to succeed. That's something which is just against my moral duty, because how can you teach other people when you're not even doing it yourself anymore? Obviously, when you exit your business or something, that's different, but that's the problem right nowadays, that there's so many people who have had a little bit of success and then trying to sell shovels to other people. And I think that's what you experienced as well with this previous mentor probably. Like the thing is with your story, which I really like and why I really love your story, because you are actually one of the few people, okay? Because back in the days, you were the guy. I remember very clearly. You messaged me on the Instagram. I was like, you said, I don't have the budget yet because I'm studying. I'm doing all this. I'm trying to make my part-time job work. My e-commerce is not working yet. I just started to learn it. And you were like, hey, do you do any like 1 hour consultancy calls? And I remember very clearly, I said, like, normally I don't, but I mean, I respect your story, and I was just like starting to help out people. So I was like, I obviously needed success stories. I needed case studies, right? I needed people like you who were actually going to win. And I remember very clearly, you just purchased 2 calls with me, like for a very low price. I just gave you 2 calls. I don't do that, by the way, anymore. But you just purchased 2 calls, which are just separate. Okay. So from that point, I did those calls with you. We restructured your whole business. I teach you all of my strategies during those 2 calls. I condensed everything in 2 calls. Obviously, I couldn't go into too much detail. And after that, like usually when like I've done it with a couple of other people, okay, as well back then. I don't do it anymore. But I thought, like usually with those people, I don't hear anything from them anymore. Okay, like basically going in the black hole, I don't see anything from them anymore. But with you, I remember very clearly, you implemented directly what I told you. Okay, you started to exactly implement everything, scale your store up, and like after, I know you remember very clearly, you sent me those screenshots of results of you getting your first sales, scaling up, and then going to 1K a day, go to 2K a day, and then you actually messaged me after a couple of weeks, hey bro, let me join the full mentorship. And after that, the rest is history, I guess. But how did you experience that? Because like that's what I really respect about you. Like you actually implemented directly what I told you, and then you came back telling me, hey bro, help me further.
Yeah, I think that was the real breakthrough to where I went from essentially struggling with scaling and not knowing to what to do to then having a plan. And I remember our first call very clearly. And everything I learned then, I've still applied to opening new stores. I've applied it to, setting my goals this year and also just thinking bigger. Because with like the other people, they think like, oh, maybe 50K a month or something is like a lot. Or like in terms of like the end goal, the mentorship. But with you, the end goal, the mentorship is like a lot bigger. It's like, 1 million a month, things like that. But so with the first call that we had, I booked it. I was like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. I need to talk to him and essentially find out what I don't know. So we got on the call and we went through strategy, like why my strategy wasn't working, how to scale properly, and then goal setting. And within the next 2 or 3 weeks, I restructured the ad account. I improved the offer, and you introduced me to someone who was running the same offer as me, and that also gave it like a extra boost on the back end or like on the front end. And then through those like literal 1 hour call, I this doubled or tripled within a week. I was like, wait, this is kind of crazy, We went from 200 to 1K a day, which is insane. And then I also started a new store using your like product research, how to build a brand from the ground up, just so I have two side by side. And yeah, those two brands I've still got to this day. They're the ones that have made me the most money over the lifetime.
Wow, wow. So from that point, I actually to touch on that point as well. I remember very clearly what you just said. I connected with someone else who was running a similar offer as you, and because I knew in the group as well, I knew you guys could be able to help each other. You guys hopped on a call, and that's what the power of networking is, right? Because those people you don't meet in these free communities. You don't meet them in these freebie Facebook groups or whatever school communities. Like you actually meet them where they actually also willing to invest in themselves and already validated to be able to actually get to these numbers. So with you, I'm actually curious, what has been the biggest difference? What made it for you to scale this hard? Because obviously the previous mentorship didn't work out for you. You got taught the wrong strategies in there. What do you think from what I told you was the biggest lever for you to scale this hard suddenly?
It was having a clear strategy. So every step of the way, I was like, okay, I know this is what I need to work on. And they gave me direct things that I can improve on. So for example, with the new shop that I started, I was like, okay, one day it's profitable, the next day it's break even, the next day it was quite inconsistent. I remember you literally looked at it during the call. You're like, within 10 minutes, you're like, okay, we need to improve the offer. You should try this, and then let me know how it goes. And then also implement like this thing. Or you gave me 2 things to implement. And I literally implemented them, and changing the offer made it night and day difference. I was making profit every single day. And then from then I was like, okay, now I can start scaling it like profitably and just I can easily scale it. Um, and it's also a lot simpler as well when you know what to do, because when you have five different people telling you to do five different things, you don't know which one's going to work. But when you have one source of truth, it makes it a lot easier.
Like from that point where you start implementing stuff, okay, you went from $200 a day to 1K a day. Was it up only from there? What were the struggles you were finding to go even to? Because I believe what was your record day?
Our record day has been 50K in a single day.
50K. Wow, that's amazing. I mean, from 0 to 50K a day. That's like, do you even, before I even ask the question, do you even realize the grasp of that money that you first wanted to make 20K a month? That was your goal. And now you're doing 50K a day.
Yeah, nah. I mean, sometimes you stop to think about it and you're like, okay, this is like if I made this much in a year back then, I'd be like over the moon. And I've just generated that much value within a day. Um, but then you also look at other people doing a lot bigger numbers and you're like, okay, wait, there's more that still I can do with this stuff. And there's still like a lot to learn.
Exactly. So maybe a bit about your backstory. Like, did you grow up alone, or did you? Because you said you were from not from the UK originally, right? It's obviously visible, but um, like, how did your upbringing go?
So we came from Afghanistan to the UK. My dad came first, and then our family essentially followed through him. And I think he's a big testament and like drilling in the, strong work ethic, making sure you're like working towards something, even though they would prefer me to have like a more stable job. I remember when I was doing sales and I was doing e-commerce, they were like, okay, maybe don't do door to door, try something else instead. Um, but yeah, I think they instilled a lot of like core beliefs I still carry because he came here, went from like a good job where he was like doing doctoring in Afghanistan to then coming here and washing dishes to begin with. And then he went from washing dishes to then again becoming a doctor. And yeah, I think he just instilled a very strong like work ethic because even though he tried to give us all the essentials, even though came from another country, he started off literally like decreasing his like quality of life at first. He came here first, did everything, settled it all down for us, and so then we could come and just be comfy. And he made sure that we didn't know much struggle. And it's not until later in life where you grow up and you see that and you're like, okay, damn, they actually do a lot for us. And yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's also a core motivator, wanting to give back to them.
Yeah, I have the exact same motivator as you, man. I see, like, if I see my parents, my mom was born in the Netherlands herself, but my dad came from China all the way here to a foreign country like 25 years ago. Started a restaurant. I don't even know how long was it ago. Like before I was born, started a restaurant, but they didn't understand the tax system. They didn't understand anything in the Netherlands. But they still started a restaurant, and they just did what they understood, which was making good food, and then try to sell it physically. And I tried to make a living for us. Like they got 4 kids, which I was the third one of, and like something which I am now realizing once you get older, like how much actually they worked to give me a good life, to give me an opportunity to go study, go to university, which obviously didn't work out. But now they realize that was not the way. Maybe back in the day it was the way. But yeah, 100%, bro. That's that endless motivation which you get from that, and it's beautiful to hear that your dad has been such an inspiration for you. Same for me, man. But if I understand correctly, you're not born in the UK. You're born in Afghanistan. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I was born in Afghanistan and then I came to the UK very young.
So what age did you move here?
It must have been about 5, 6 years old.
5, 6. So do you still remember something of your Afghanistan upbringing, or was it?
Uh, I remember the good times, to be honest. I mean, you're a kid, It's like you're being taken care of. You go to a park and stuff. It was like just those kind of little memories.
And when you were smaller, did you always think about starting a business? Were you always entrepreneurial? Was you just rolled into it, like when you saw people online doing it?
To be honest, when I was young, I wasn't entrepreneurial at all. Looking back at it, I feel like, yeah, I feel like at the beginning, I wasn't very entrepreneurial in my youth. I was kind of just like, I got good grades. I was clever in classes. I was very like good at maths and science and stuff. But because my goal was always like, okay, become an engineer, I was working hard towards that goal. Um, and then the entrepreneurial side only came out when I shifted the goals from being like academic to then okay, I can apply these skills and try to learn something else instead, which is going to give me a lot more upside in the long run.
So why did you want to become an engineer? Was it your parents, your dad who instilled it in you?
You know, Asian parents, it's got to be doctor, engineer, or lawyer.
Yeah, you're astronaut. It's otherwise you're failed in life, right? But who told you need to be an engineer? Was it yourself who wanted to be an engineer?
Yeah, I think it was myself. My brother, he's also went down the engineering route. And I kind of saw what he did, and I thought it was fun, you know. I was good at maths, good at science, and I was like, it's fun to kind of make things and improve on them. I was like, you can do like science projects. They're always fun. Thinking of a concept and then like building it. I thought that was a really cool part of engineering. Over time, I kind of realized it doesn't really align with my goals because towards the end of university, it was during like the Andrew Tate era. I realized, okay, this doesn't align with my goals. If I want to be like super rich, if I really want to give back to my parents, if I really want to, hit even 20K a month, I was like, I can't do this through engineering just because look at how many other engineers there are and none of them are hitting that. And even when I go into an interview, I remember I was speaking to one of the ladies there who was doing my interview. I was like, okay, how much does like the top person here make? I was like, gave something like 120 per year. I was like, okay, that's sick. And then she asked me my goals. I was like, yeah, so within 5 years, I want to make 20K per month. I just kind of like paused and like I could see her like do a little giggle behind. I was like, okay. I was like, oh, so this isn't the place for me if I want to hit that goal. I remember when I told people that they were just like, they didn't really take it well. So I kind of just stopped telling people about my goals, or to kind of stop telling the wrong people about it just because they couldn't see it essentially. And then, so after the engineering, I got into sales and was like, maybe sales can give me that opportunity because I saw salespeople making, a lot, 20K per month, and I thought it was possible. And then after sales, I saw all these people with internet money making all this money. So I tried affiliating, I tried copywriting. But I realized you really need the right opportunity vehicle to hit great numbers and also to do it without risk. And e-commerce was that one for me. I think it's the best opportunity vehicle anyone young can do. Because you're making as much as like a local restaurant. You're making as much money as them. But you don't have to hire 10 people. You don't have to pay rent for the space. You can literally start out with like a couple hundred and that's it. You don't need to there's not much risk in my opinion.
And like when you, and did you actually finish your study or what did you do with your study? Dropped out?
Yeah, I finished the study, but that was just for my parents. But within third year, I was like, okay, I don't want to do this at all. It's not long term for me, but I was like, I'll get it for the CV. I'll do it because my parents would rather me finish uni. I was like, okay, I'm not going to drop out. I'm just going to finish it. But university was definitely like put on the side. And I tried to focus on sales and e-commerce as the main.
Yeah. So from the moment you start to scale up in the end of 2023, like how did your journey go towards going to $6 million? Was it up only? What were some of the struggles you were coming across during that journey?
So in the beginning, it was up just because we scaled very hard. And it was easy to go from, the first 0 to 200 was hard. The 200 to 1K was like easy. It was just increasing numbers and scaling. But then after a certain point, I like plateaued. I was like, okay, I don't really know how to get past this. And that's when we had our second call. And yeah, throughout the time, it's definitely had come to a lot of troubles. But I feel like some of them could have been avoided if I listened to you a lot faster. So in like DMCAs, you were warning me about them for a couple of calls, like, okay, I'll get onto this at some point. And then they hit and I was like, okay, this completely like ruined the business. Almost, it like completely just hindered everything. I remember you were like, bro, you have to do this. I was like, okay, I'll get onto it. And then the consequences came. So I could have avoided the pitfall faster.
Yeah, what were some of your biggest lessons during that time? For the viewers who are watching, like what were some of the things you could avoid it, which would have made you more money, would have skilled you faster?
I think reinvest into yourself and reinvest into your business is the best thing you can do. Just because you're learning skills to where you scale a lot or to where you can make a lot more money. And then your business is also kind of building a moat around it to where it's becoming a real brand. So we see people dropshipping and every month they're going to try a new product. If you build an actual brand, then, which is the way you teach it, you're like, okay, build a brand, have repeating customers, have a good product, then it just makes longevity because I've had the same two brands running for over a year, and they're like a lot more on autopilot now. Whereas other people, you can see them still doing the same things every month over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's amazing to see that you're still running the same brand as you were starting, obviously with your first brands back in 2023, and still running it to this day. And I obviously have a similar story with my brand that I started when I was 16, still running it to this day. And that's the power of brand building, and that's why you wouldn't wanna just general dropship, because dropshipping, you get holds, you get problems with payment processors, you get problems with Facebook, and your products are so unsustainable. You make a bit of money, then you lose it with holds and refunds. And when building a brand, you can actually have something which is still running to this day. For now, for you, almost for 1.5 years now, which is still running to this day. And that's just amazing to see. And that's the power of brand building. And I know you will be taking those brands to like new heights, new records. But for the beginners who are watching, for most beginners who are watching, like in the beginning when you started out, like how did you get through that initial starting phase? Because that's the hardest of all. In my opinion, when you're just starting out, it's literally the hardest of all. Okay, like getting through that initial from $0 to $200 to 1K per day, and then becoming profitable and stably. Like, how did you get through that?
Yeah, so the beginnings are hardest because obviously you're not seeing anything come from the work. You're like, I'm putting all this work in and I'm not like making any money. I'm not profitable yet. But I think as long as you're persistent and you keep working at it, all it takes is one product, all it takes is one store to where it then scales like to the moon with it. And I think that's all you have to do. Like not Jamie Dimon.
Oh, you mean James Dyson? You mean from the? I thought Jamie Dimon the banker, but you mean Dyson? You mean from the vacuum cleaners and the hair blower?
Yeah, so he had like 1,000 I remember our engineer teacher always used to say, he's like, he had 1,000 prototypes before he made like the Dyson vacuum. And then that was the one that now made him billions. It's like when you're knocking on doors, you have to keep knocking like 100 doors until you get your like 3 to 5 sales. But all you need is that 3 to 5. So I think as long as you're just consistent with it, it's gonna come. It's impossible to not be successful as long as you're consistent and you don't give up. Sounds a bit motivational speaking.
That's exactly, that's true, man. I mean, it sounds very cliche. It sounds very Fugazi, get rich quick talk. But at the end of the day, it's true. It's true. If you don't give up, there's no other way than for you to win. And that's what I told you as well in the very first call. From what I remember, I gave you a very long motivational talk in the end of, okay, like you seem like a smart guy. You study engineering, so you'll be able to. You were able to go through engineering in university. So if you're able to go through that, like I know you can able to handle e-commerce, and you seem like a hardworking guy. It's just going to be a question of how bad do you want it. And if you want it bad enough, you always find a way, and you found a way, and that's why I so respect you, and that's why you're on the seat right here on this podcast. So tremendous respect to that.
I was going to say, because I find your story very inspirational, because you obviously started so young, like when you were 16. What do you think made you start so young? Because while you were like doing this, we were all still like just playing games, watching TV, doing like nothing, productive.
Good question,
I guess.
man. Good question. So why did I start so young? Like, I mean, I started when I was 15 originally, and first of all, I think I didn't even start that young. But like originally, like if I think about it, my people my age, people from my high school, people were like in my classmates were not doing anything entrepreneurial. Then they were, if you were to be selling something online, you'll be crazy. I remember very clearly still that we had this class. It was this economy, like company. How to call it in English? There was this class where you basically have economics for companies. That was one of the classes we had like once a week, and we had to do like a case study where you have to research something and then you find a product and then try to make it a case study online. Like we have to give a presentation at school. I remember very clearly that we did the case study with one of the products we were selling during COVID. It was these pieces we had to put in for a mouth mask. And I remember very clearly, like me and my friend, like we were running this the shit together. And I remember very clearly we were on the presentation and we were showing it to everyone. And then we ended with like, hey, this is our result. We did like 50K in revenue, and they were like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? They're like, you actually did it? And we said like, yes. And then the whole school started to talk about it and shit. I think we were 16 then when we did it. But to answer your question regarding like why I started so young is because I just found it. And I think the moment I found out about e-commerce, which was a tutorial which I found online about it, and I watched it when I was 15. Like it just ignited the fire which already inside of me, because I knew I just felt that I was more special than the rest. Like I'm not meant to do this normal life, but I didn't know how, I didn't know what, so I didn't really talk about it until I found e-commerce, and I was like, bang, this is it. You know what I mean? I saw the opportunity and I went all in on it. Like I didn't wait on it. I saw it the same day without having read any other books outside of school, the school books which I had to read, without ever watching any motivational speakers, without watching any YouTube videos. I just started. Okay, like blindly. I started doing research. I started Googling. There was no ChatGPT back then. I just started watching more tutorials, starting just sell my first product because I couldn't open a company. So I just sold it on like the Dutch version of eBay, sold fake AirPods on there. And I just did it. I just took action. And from there I started to learn. And there, while my fire inside of me was getting ignited more, while I was getting more and more motivated, because I saw, okay, this is actually real. You can actually make sales online. Well, in the beginning, it was not profitable. I immediately started to buy Rich Dad Poor Dad, first book I bought. Then I Think and Grow Rich, and from there it's just a snowball effect, right? Like obviously people around me were my parents were very hesitant and not believing in me, but I just kept going and I just did it. And why I started so early is because I discovered it early. Like I think if I discovered it at 13, I would probably have started at 13. And that's the beautiful thing about e-commerce. Like there's literally no age constraint to it either. Like I know guys who are 13 who are doing e-commerce. Obviously that's very young. But you can start, like there's no age constraint. Literally, you can start from anywhere as long as you have Wi-Fi, and it doesn't matter how old you are, as long as you understand how a computer works and you're not too young. So, but that's a great question, Slimman. But I'm actually curious about how because I struggle with this personally as well when I started. And it's something which I think a lot of beginners are struggling with, which is budget and cash flow in the beginning. Like I know you were working your part-time job in the beginning. I know you had struggles with cash flow, but how did you deal with your cash flow in the beginning, and how did you actually get the initial starting capital to start out, and how did that budget journey go for you?
With the initial capital, you need money to make money, in a sense. So I think if you don't have anything, the first step is like, okay, let me just actually get a job, actually get some income, because you need money to run the business, and to like kind of fund yourself, right? Because while you're learning, or you need to spend money just during the learning process, because your first product's likely not going to hit, but you're going to learn so many lessons to where you can take them on to the next. But also when you do hit your winner, it's kind of like alchemy. You put in £1, you get £2 back. So even if you have a huge payment hold, all it means is you can like scale down, and then you can win £1, you make £2 back the next day. You put in £2 the next day, you get back £4, and you can just keep stacking like that. So even if you have a huge payment issue, as long as you like scale gradually and you know your numbers, you can keep putting money in and getting more out of it. I know like right now we've got 6 figures in holds, which is more money than I have in my bank, and you've probably got millions knowing how PayPal is and stuff.
Yeah, PayPal is always a pain in the ass. But how much did you start with actually in the first phase?
Initially, I started with my money from my student loan, and then money that I just had from part-time jobs and stuff.
How much was it?
Probably spent around £500-600.
£500-600 you started with, and that turned out to 5 to 6 million. And it was just pounds, right? This is 5 to 6 million pounds. We're talking about dollars.
$5 to $6
dollars. So that's crazy. I mean, you went one. How much is it? 1,000x or something. It is. I don't know the math. But you went 1,000x with your initial starting capital. And I actually have a similar story as I did, but because I also started with $500 initial starting capital, and from there I turned it into multiple millions in profit, which is crazy. And it's only e-commerce which you can basically start with such a small starting capital and then make endless return.
I think this is the only business model where you can do it. Like if you look at any other business, you need to put so much in to begin with at the beginning. But with this, it's so lean to where you just need yourself and a couple hundred, and then from there you can turn it into millions.
Yeah, and the great thing about e-commerce as well is that whenever you put some money in, you usually, if you do it right and you have the right strategy, you always get money back. Like even though you get a little bit less money back if you're not doing it correctly or you have losing product, you still get some money back. Like with crypto, if you put $500 in, you're starting out and you're putting in a meme coin, it's gone. You know what I mean? It's gone. You know, the South Park meme is like, and it's gone. And that's it. You know what I mean? And with e-commerce, you like at least get something back, and you have learned, you've gotten better at your skill, you've gotten more experience, so your next product will be better. But for the guys who are watching and also just starting out, like what would you say is your number one tip for guys who are starting out and their budget is low, like they don't have much income coming in? How do they make it work from the get-go? Like how do they actually get through this phase one? Because phase one is the hardest.
So I think when you have limited cash flow, you just need to spend the time learning and like I think be efficient with your money. So learn through YouTube. If you could join a community, ask the people who are doing more than you if they can take a look how they've learned. And then just by being efficient with that, you can put the money in and you're probably not going to lose all of it just because you're going to get some return, like you said, at least some return on your money. And then at some point it's going to flip on its head and every pound you put in, you're going to get £2 back. And then that's when it gets real good.
What has been your record month until now?
A record month has been around $700,000 in 1 month.
In 1 month. And it's just with the 2 brands, right?
That was with 4. Those 2 brands I've had since the start. And then using the same, like pretty much the exact same strategies we learned from the first call, I started 2 new ones around late a few months ago. And then with all 4 combined, we hit 720.
Do you recommend guys to have multiple stores, multiple brands?
I think not too many. I think 2 is a good number. Just because when one goes up, you're not as emotional to it because you have another one which is doing well. I remember when I had one and they like it's a bad day. I really like my day was completely ruined, you know. But I think if you focus on less, then you can scale them a lot harder, and then you can also build proper systems. Or if you want to have multiple brands, you need to have good systems or people in place to where it can run without your input as much. So like you say, when you write down what you do in a day and then you try to outsource all the low leverage stuff.
So, but like I usually recommend people just to focus on one brand because you only need one brand which can scale you to 100K a day, 300K a day. And it's done the same for me. And I know the biggest guys in e-commerce have usually one brand, not multiple brands, because it's hard to dilute your focus. But interesting take from you, definitely. So what is next for your brand? What is next for you? How are you going to hit the $1 million+ a month?
So it's just doing more of what's working. Like I say, you have 4 levers in e-commerce and you have to try and pull them all at the same time. So whenever we learn something that works for one, try to implement it across to the next one as well. Ideally, want to hit $1 million, and then just because when you join certain communities, you see these people all doing crazy numbers, the next goal is 100K a day. And then ideally, by around Black Friday time, hit 100K in a day.
Easy. So what impact has the Winner Circle had on your journey?
I think it's been the catalyst which like started it all. So before, when you don't know how to scale anything properly, you don't know which communities have the right people to talk to. The Winner Circle is like, you can use it as a source of truth. You can be like, okay, these people are all doing good numbers confirmed. You have yourself in there as well. So whenever someone shares some like source, like I know Jacob does it a lot, you can put it onto your store and like 9 out of 10 times it'll boost your store. So just by talking to the right people, you can stack all these like wins. I think it comes with 2 sides of it. You have the community and then you have the coaching. The coaching is the best one that I've experienced just because it's directly with you. You're having someone who's done 300K days teach you or tell you what you can specifically change on your store, what to actually implement. And the value of that is crazy, you know? It's like unmatched, essentially, to get direct feedback on exactly what you're doing and exactly what to do. It makes it like simple, you know? And then the community side as well. Obviously, you've introduced me to people running the same offer who helped. You have other people doing crazy numbers. So whenever you have a question, you know you're going to get it answered by people who are doing, who are verified in e-commerce. And they're all like running their own brands. They're all running it super successfully. I think if you want to go like fast in e-commerce and if you want to go hard, you need some level of mentorship, whether it's the people around you, but you need people doing more than you just to show you the path. Because otherwise, you're going to be like a bit lost in what to do and what actually is going to move you towards where you need to get to. And I think that's the reason I scaled faster than most. Towards like I hit 300K during our time within a few months. And I think the only reason is because I put the money and time into mentorship to where you're getting the information so much faster and you're not having to spend money to learn it.
Yeah, 100%, bro. Like, I know the mistakes I made when I started. Like, I would have avoided so many mistakes. I would have gone so much faster if I had someone who guided me, who actually already did of what I wanted to do. So that's like the way you can fast track your success is just crazy in this business, especially if you have a right mentor. But like I know you're gonna go places, bro. Like the things you've been implementing is great, and then the faster you implement things. My final question to you, Sliman, is like, what is one piece of advice for people you are watching? What has been your biggest lesson till now? Would you say to your viewers, to the viewers who are watching?
The biggest lesson is take action and try to just move fast. And the reason I say that is because there's been times where you can have an idea and you have the theory, but until you apply it, it doesn't actually you can't reap the benefits until you do it. So like when you're talking about your uni degree and how you actually built the shop and you got 50K in sales, while everyone else is like doing the theory, and like not implementing anything, they're not taking action. You actually took the action and then you got the rewards of like, okay, we're actually running a proper business here. And I'm guessing that's why, like, you're so much further ahead than everyone else your age. Even for me, like there's been times where I've had a concept for an ad that I've just been putting off and I'm not like actually scripted it fully, or I haven't like sent it off to a creator yet. And then a few weeks later, I see someone else running the exact same angle. And for them, it's like blown up and got them, thousands in sales just by looking at the metrics. And you're like, shit, if I just did that, when I thought about it and if I took the action then and there, that would have been my winning ad. And that would have got me an extra 30, 40K or probably 100K looking at the metrics that they did. So yeah, I think just take action because the opportunity is out there. And until you actually act on it, it's wasted, or nothing's going to come from it.
Amazing, bro. Take action. You guys heard it. You guys heard from Sliman himself, the guy who went basically from a broke engineer all the way to $6 million in revenue in 1.5 year time. It's all possible if you take action, man. If this story doesn't inspire you, I don't know what will. From Immigrant, basically made it all the way to here. Now fully into e-commerce and able to change his life, change the life of his family. This is amazing, man. Sliman, thank you so much for coming on this podcast. I know we'll for sure do a part 2 once you're at $1 million+ per month. You have more lessons to share. But thank you for coming on, man. And thank you guys, everyone, for watching. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Ciao.